people that I've known, networks that I've been a part of, things I've contributed to. I'm I'm very involved with Next Up locally. And that is a group of, I've always been involved with groups of women, especially.
Welcome to the 4 Bars Podcast. I'm Ken Leith.
And I'm Patti Leith. We are your hosts for some compelling dialogue, encouraging our listeners to strengthen their connections
and build strong communities, lifting each other up and connecting in ways that matter.
We named the podcast 4 Bars as a reference to how hard we work to find a 4 Bars connection on our devices.
And we wondered what could happen with relationships if we worked as hard at connecting.
Let's find out.
Welcome to this week's episode of 4 Bars Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ken Leith.
And I'm Patti Leith. Welcome back.
Yes, and we are very excited this week to have with us Lela Davidson. Lela is the Chief Operating Officer of the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art and the Momentary. Welcome, Lela.
It's great to have you
Thank you so much. Yes. I really appreciate this.
Yes, well, you are going to be doing a couple of episodes with us, and we're very excited about that. I know people are probably really interested in your journey, how you ended up where you are today. And so I'll just open with, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig deeper into your journey.
Okay. Well, my journey to where I am today professionally is, I always say it's been a squiggly career path.
I like that.
So it's very squiggly. Just really taking advantage of, the opportunities that have been placed in my path. And so I started as a CPA, went to school, thought that was what I would do forever. And it didn't work out that way. So I've gotten to work in a lot of different spaces, from, the financial space to media and e-commerce and retail and advertising. And it's just all really feels like it's culminated in this opportunity to contribute back to the community in this incredible institution in Crystal Bridges and the Momentary. But I would say the biggest thing for me has been the openness to do things that were not necessarily a part of my plan, whether that's in leadership of myself or leadership of others. That's just been, I've been really fortunate and lucky, and also I would say prepared and willing to step out on a limb and try new things.
Very cool. Well, we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into that. You are here in the Bentonville, Arkansas area. How long have you been here?
I've been here 21 years.
Okay, I've been here a long time as well.
Seen a lot, right? We have seen a lot of change.
For sure. For sure. Well, so as you were starting out your career in accounting, what were some of the things that made you consider looking at or pivoting to other roles?
For me, it's always just been, whatever the life and family circumstances were. And so, as I was starting to have a family almost 30 years ago, things were a little different than they are today. And so we took whatever opportunities made sense for both of our careers. My husband and myself, we've been married for 32 years, and, things have changed over that time. And so I would say a lot of my choices were based on what was the best for our overall family unit at the time, the opportunities that we both had. And I was definitely open to whatever I could do. I think I would say, as, kids coming out of school today, accounting or anything that's that technical of a field can never serve you wrong. Like whether it's data science or, many other options today, that was something that has come with me. And so even though I've pivoted into these different areas, I've never left that original foundational financial education behind. I mean, it has served me incredibly well. And it's actually come full circle. I think a lot of, in this role today, what I do is a lot of it is financially based, even though I sort of tried to get away from it. It always comes back.
It always comes back because you have that foundation. But in the years, or the probably months really, that I've come to get to know you better, I do think there is a part of you that seeks innovation and creativity and things that are different that you may not have had that opportunity to do.
I think I really just get bored easily, Patti, and so you have to make your natural traits work for you, right?
You do.
Yes.
So once I've mastered something, I'm really ready to move on. And not to say that, the accounting world was, not innovative at the time, but there was definitely a feeling of this is something that you understand now, and how else can you apply this?
Right. And I think there are a lot of innovations in accounting. I think what I've come to see about you is that you really do like trying new things, right?
I do like trying new things.
That's awesome.
Now, I was going to say, I mean, when I hear people talk about, the excitement of trying new things in their career, sometimes there's a hesitancy of people to do that. What do you think has kind of been your impetus for saying, yeah, I will take on new challenges and try different things versus staying where I'm comfortable all the time?
I think for me, it's a little bit of that fear of missing out. So I think about making the leap to Crystal Bridges, which, it was a big risk because I was in a role that I could have continued in that role for quite some time, working at one of the largest communications and creative agencies in the world that's very successful, and to leave that to do something that was very unknown. I think a lot of my motivation was just I knew that if I saw someone else doing that work that wasn't me, because I would have, if I was afraid to make the leap, I knew that I would kick myself in a year if I saw someone, because I knew that someone else I knew would get the role and I would have to watch them have all the fun. And so it's a little bit of, I guess it's fear of missing out. I'm not sure what it is, or just a little bit of insanity, that not just being satisfied to relax.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like it keeps it very fresh and exciting. That's for sure. And you mentioned, you've been married for 32 years and have family. So within your family structure, it sounds like there's good support for seeking new opportunities.
I think we really support each other. I mean, my husband and I have been, you don't make it this long, as you know, without good communication, good alignment of values, supporting what each other wants to do, even though you don't know what that is when you sign up together in the beginning when you're babies.
It's true.
It's great. We've had a good time following each other.
One of the things that I think people who know you know about you is that you have a huge passion for community. Tell us about how you came to have that and why that's really important to you.
I've had a lot of opportunities, and a lot of those opportunities have been, outside of my family circle, and just being part of nurturing communities is something that, I didn't realize when I was younger how much that really boosts you in life. And honestly, I've really been lucky to make friends with a group of primarily women that have had that foundation in community building and community contribution. And so I've really learned a lot of that from my friends. And also, I would say, just being part of Northwest Arkansas for the last year, 2 decades, and seeing how this community has come together uniquely. I've lived in some philanthropic places before, but nothing that comes close to what this area does. And so I think that has shaped me a lot. I mean, in my later adult life here.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. As you grew in your career and made your leadership, you move into leadership, talk to us about that. What were some of the things that you learned along the way?
I think that there's a couple of tricky transition moments, moving from, say, being an individual contributor to being a manager to being a leader of more people, because in the beginning we're young and we're all trying to perform, right? And then you have to shift. You have to take a different perspective on what performance means. So I think that was, for me, a big intersection in understanding how to be of service to someone else who's now in that position of they are only focused on performing. And then, if you're successful in that and leading one or more people, then, you end up with more responsibility usually. Right. And then it changes because instead of, I think in the beginning, leading people, it was about clearing a path for those people. And now I see it a little more of like building the infrastructure. I remember being in a role several years ago, more than 10 years ago, and I could always picture myself as like in the bush, like with a machete, just like hacking down whatever was in our path. And I feel like now it's more like, okay, I got to build a bridge or a highway or something. Like, how can we, there's more responsibility there that just a path through the bush isn't going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So changing the infrastructure so that you don't have to keep chopping down the things that are growing in the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think those are some intersections that are really critical. Mm-hmm. That is where I see people maybe don't want to shift their perspective in that way, and they might get stuck either as an individual contributor or as a manager role with a smaller contribution than they maybe could have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you articulated really, really well the fact that, where in upper leadership, your shift is over in now infrastructure and creating the infrastructure for success, for growth, if you would. We look at it, and we'll talk to folks and do different clients, and we'll start out with that. Generally, we'll go into an organization as the individual contributor, frontline person, going to do a great job and deliver. And then next thing you know, if we do a good job, we're given an opportunity to manage. And now we're managing one or more people, as you said. Ultimately, then we start to manage other leaders. And ultimately, we stop looking at the day-to-day business. And it's more that, as you said, that infrastructure. But it gives a clear path for listeners, too, to understand that, hey, if I'm on the front line, over the years, there's a pathway for me to be able to understand the differences of what it takes to get to leadership within organizations. And we find that very consistently, it's very similar, that structure of how you do it and understanding the differences in what my responsibilities are. But once you start leading even the first level, our responsibility shifts over to that person to help them get their job done, and it always remains that.
Yeah, and that's the hardest shift. And I think a lot of organizations don't do a great job in preparing people to make that initial shift. Mm-hmm. Because becoming a manager of someone else for the first time it's just a huge responsibility. And I think in most organizations, we just expect that it's just going to organically happen. Yeah. And it doesn't.
Yeah. And it's similar to parenting in some respects, not that you're parenting your kids in management, but just that there are so many things that can occur and so many experiences that leave a lasting impression, and there's no handbook, right? So you have to do the best that you can do and learn from it as you go.
Right. And I think, I don't recall the stat, maybe we can look it up, but it's some huge amount of your personal satisfaction that is determined by your direct supervisor at work. Yes. And so, that's a huge responsibility.
It really is. It really is when you think about it. And as you're describing your leadership journey, I'm thinking of some research we've done on generations where there are extreme generational differences based on how we were brought up and, our level of access to technology and that type of thing. And at the end of the day, we all want out of life what we didn't get when we were 10. And that changes across the generations. But one of the things that we also experienced in our research is that there are some things that are just going to always be the same in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s as you're building your career. And that it was the same today, 50 years ago.
Right.
And we call it My Mother Hates My Music, the research.
Love that. I love that.
So, there are just some things that are different between 20s when you are trying to show that you can do anything, and in your 40s and 50s when you actually have the opportunity to do those things. You have to work through, what are your personal foundations and values.
Yeah.
Tell us about your leadership foundations and values. What do you think is important when leading?
For me, I love putting systems in place. I thrive on growth, which we talked about. Change to me is growth, creating clarity. I like for things to be very orderly in my personal life. And, that's what I bring. I think that's one of my top value proposition is like really pulling order, not necessarily that there has to be chaos, but often that's some of the environments that I find myself in is bringing that order and then, learning and taking those learnings from one area of creating order to another area to create order. But I like my door's always open. My teams can tell me anything. I try to seek out feedback so that my teams will know that I'm open to their feedback. I try to get to know people on a, individual level. It's tricky sometimes when you have any size of team, really, because you have to lead each individual and you have to lead a team to get things done together. So, I wasn't a sport girl in school, so I can speak in the business sports metaphors, but I didn't get that imprinted on me at a young age of that whole, teamwork foundation. So that's something that I actually have learned in the professional world. So it's been good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and what you talked about there a little bit is the fact that seeking out input and feedback from others within the team, that's one of the most incredible empowerment things we see in organizations is when leaders are open to not thinking I have to, just because I'm a leader and I have a title, that doesn't mean I have to make all the decisions on my own. In fact, I'm missing out on opportunities if I don't talk to people within my structure and beyond. And it may be people who are on the front lines who really know what's going on, and understanding that from them that we find is really, really critical. Those conversations are really crucial to employee satisfaction. And when they are lacking, it seems like they are really are more out there in the wilderness, so to speak, and not sure of the foundation that they're trying to navigate if they don't get that from their leader. How have you seen that play out at any point in time in your career?
Well, I think, absolutely the front line knows what is happening. So now there's often tension between, whatever directives are coming down from different stakeholders, but the front line should feel welcome to tell you what the reality is. The challenge, I think, is, and this is something that I have to remind myself constantly, is while I see myself as very approachable and my door is always open and you can tell me anything, because you have a certain title or you're in a certain role, you really have to go out of your way to make people feel comfortable that they, can tell you something that you may not want to hear. And so where I've seen it work well is when leaders are very intentional about making it known that they want that kind of feedback and they want to hear the bad news, not just the good news. Where I've seen it not go well is when there are sort of performative gestures that are intended to appear to be seeking feedback, but then that feedback's not acted on.
Yes.
And that can be more damaging than, not seeking the feedback.
Right.
So
absolutely.
It's a tough one. I have a strong personality. I'm direct communicator. I have very high standards. And I also have to continually remind myself that not everyone feels comfortable just coming up to me and telling me something that I might not want to hear.
Yeah.
Even though I'm fine when I hear it. And I think people, once they have that experience with me, they understand it. But it's a very important aspect as a leader, at least for me. Maybe it's just my weak point.
No, I think it's a strength for sure. And I also think that as you're speaking about this, one of the things that keeps people from doing it is not necessarily the leader themselves or how they project themselves, but just the power of the position. And I think if a listener is wanting to address something with somebody who is in leadership, if they can do that as long as there's an openness to doing that. Don't let the fear be the reason that you don't do it.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, 100%.
That openness too.
100%. You have to be brave.
Yeah. I always tell people if there's something that isn't going the way that you think that it should be going, you can put up with it until you can't anymore. You can leave, or you can try to change it. And that is the better of the three, is to try to change it, because everybody benefits from that.
Right. It's so much more satisfying. And I remember being young and having a manager that I just fervently disagreed with on a certain point, and, psyching myself up and going in and having this tough conversation. And, after that, we were just great. Like, he did want to hear it, and I did need to get it off my chest. I can't imagine if I would have held that in, I wouldn't have been able to stay with the organization. So,
Yeah. So that's great. That's great. Now, I know just from knowing you really put a lot of emphasis into connections and networking. And can you speak to that a little bit, and how you do that and why you think that's important?
Well, I'm super extroverted, so it comes naturally for me. But every opportunity I've had has been through, people that I've known, networks that I've been a part of, things I've contributed to. I'm I'm very involved with Next Up locally. And that is a group of, I've always been involved with groups of women, especially. And I think it's just healthy as human beings. I mean, we're built for connection, right? And so, of course, in your professional life, it's not going to be any different. And you just never know who you're going to meet, what kind of odd connection you might have that you would never be able to plan for. So, and for me too, it's just part of that change and keeping things fresh and dynamic. And while I have a very core group of friends and social connections, there's always more. This community is thriving and growing, and I just can't imagine not being part of all these different circles. It's just part of what I am.
And it's a big part of maintaining a positivity in our own lives is this community and connection and networking, and the willingness to step out and do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the other thing is that, we're talking about a lot about work situations, but it conveys over to your point too, into our personal lives. And what do we do? Well, at work, we are connecting stuff. Right. We get in our personal life, we're connecting, and ultimately we're connecting our community and connecting to our community. And coming from predominant large cities until I moved here 16 years ago, or now going on 19 years
19.
ago. It was something that in bigger cities, you still have connections, but you have to be more intentional. It felt like when I got here and I arrived here, it's like you can't go out and not connect with someone almost. And it's a different kind of opening conversation is what I would say. And when we would go out, maybe after work, have dinner or something, almost always we can meet someone new and strike up a conversation. And the next thing you know, you're talking about doing things, connecting here. Have you tried this or something over here? And then that person now comes into your circle of friends.
Right.
And that circle just keeps expanding here in a very positive way. I would say mostly everything I've had as far as experience here has been very positive, that you can build upon and build, whether it's for I'm doing it to network or I'm doing it for friendships. I'm doing it because I want to be a bigger part of the community. It all exists here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, you can't beat this community. And people who are coming here, it attracts people who want that kind of connection, want a certain lifestyle. And, of course, you're going to meet great people when you get out in this community. How could you not?
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Now, as you think about your past stories and things that have really been formative, that formed your personal leadership style today?
I don't know that there was one. I wouldn't point to one single experience, but what I will say is I have been very fortunate to have worked with amazing leaders that I could learn from. They weren't perfect, which is good, because that also taught me that you don't have to be perfect to be really good. And, I always going to school and studying accounting. It's very solid. It's very, consistent. And I thought I would go somewhere and be in the same organization for 20 or 30 years and be with the same leadership for 20 or 30 years. And that did not turn out to be my path. And so, I was kind of craved that. I wanted to be in a solid professional situation. So I was able to find that with different leaders, but just, there's a certain timing, right? It doesn't last forever necessarily, but I feel like I have just learned so much from everyone I've worked with. That's really what, that's all I had to go on.
Yeah. Well, I think we are a collection of our experience. There's some genetics thrown in there, but we pull out the best of what we experience and try to move forward with those things, and we learn from the things that aren't as good.
Yeah, I think just as long as you are intent that you are in this whatever situation to learn from it, and that you are intent on doing your best in that moment, in that role, I think that we've heard it said a lot of different ways, like just master and do your very best in this role, and the next role takes care of itself. I think it's the same thing for learning from people. You can have a terrible manager. Some managers are not. You can have someone who is not great, and you can be intent on learning, what you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Not saying that was my situation. I'm just saying,
understand.
You do have to be intentional, though, instead of, I think one of the mistakes that people make when they're young is not understanding that they have that agency over their future. And that really just comes from, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to squeeze every bit that I can out of this experience, whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience, to head into the next thing.
Yeah. And that's good advice for people listening who are really trying to form that path and realize the agency that you can and should have as you make your decisions and shape your future.
Yeah, and I think just having that bearing as a young person, it makes people stand out. I think of a certain intern that I had, and, you just knew from the beginning that this person had a vision for where they're going. And whether or not, their abilities match their vision yet, that vision is very important. And that knowledge that you do have the agency over your future. That's what I would tell anyone.
And confidence. Confidence is important. Yeah. How do you build that?
Oh, well, just making a lot of mistakes and realizing that you live.
Yes, you live through them, and everybody makes them. And
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, what do they say? Confidence is like lipstick. You have to reapply every hour. It's not just something you're born with. You have to practice confidence, and you have to be okay with failure and looking silly and people not liking you and, all the things that come with being human.
Yes. And not take any of that personally.
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it, Patty? Yeah. We take it personally.
Well, we are about to wrap up this episode, and we have another one where we'll dig deeper into your role at Crystal Bridges and Momentary and some of the very exciting things that are coming there. But as we wrap up, what advice can you share with our listeners and viewers about just managing their personal career and life choices as they move through life?
Yeah, I would say, I'm a planner. So above all else, I love to have a plan. I don't care if that plan ever comes to reality. I will make a new plan tomorrow because I love planning. But make your plans, but don't worry about them too much because they're going to change.
Yes.
And, be committed, but also be willing to let that plan go if something else comes up that's better. And I also just tell people, you really can't fail. Just keep going. The only way you fail is if you stop trying, and you're going to fail a lot.
Yeah.
And it's going to teach you a lot, and be brave. Keep going.
Good.
Those are definitely
love that.
Yeah, definitely learning moments along the way.
Yeah.
So many.
And like you said, a plan is not static. It is definitely dynamic, whether it is a personal plan or a fitness plan or plan for growing your business. They are meant to be looked at on a regular basis, amended, communicated, and ensure that everyone knows what the new adjustments are to the plan, and that's where you drive success. So thanks for sharing that part. Patty, did you have anything?
No, I don't. Do you have anything else?
No, just thank you so much. You guys are so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate that.
Wrap up.
Yes, indeed. So thank you for being here today. And thank you, Lela. And we want to just say, please, if you've enjoyed this and our other podcasts, go on to our 4bars.com podcast, 4barspodcast.com. Yes, go on to our 4barspodcast.com and please let us know what you would like to hear about, topics that you would like to have, and also ensure that you follow and subscribe so that you can get some information about us and check out our website. So again, thank you for being with us, and we will look forward to next time.
Thank you. Have a great day. The 4Bars podcast has been brought to you by Edges Inc., a growth advisory firm based in Bentonville, Arkansas. I founded the company in 2001.
Edges promotes growth of people, companies, and ideas. Our team collaboration tool, called Interface Methods, is a basis for teams to work together more collaboratively, understand each other, and accept differences and address challenges together.
We also started a nonprofit called Unform Your Bias. We teach kids and their adult influencers how to utilize storytelling as a means to reduce bias in the world. We hope you'll check us out, subscribe to our podcast, and look at our website.